But you're going to see two problems where they give you a quadratic in standard form, and we're going to go ahead and graph it. So the first thing, and from what you've seen in that ed puzzle, is you want to be able to pull out your A, B, and C. So like my A would be, oh, let me click preview. My A would be 2. My B, since it's a minus, would be negative 12. And then my constant, or what's added or subtracted at the end, is 15. So I mean, your A, B, and C, just like you did in that ed puzzle, you're just going to pull out your coefficients. The next thing we need to do is we need to get our vertex, which is this middle row in our table. It's labeled like on your assignment, but remember your vertex is always going to be the center of your table. So when it's in standard form, we need to find our axis of symmetry first. So it's a little bit different than vertex form. So if you remember from that ed puzzle video, your axis of symmetry, the formula is it's negative b all over 2 times a. And I put this on your assignment, this formula too. So hopefully, like in case you don't remember it or didn't write it down, you should have it. But so looking at our problem, we're going to have negative 12 all over 2 times a, so 2 times 2. And we need to clean this up. So the top, like I said in the ed puzzle video, if you had a chance to finish that, basically it just changes your sign. So this negative 12 would turn into a positive 12. And then 2 times 2 on the bottom would be 4. And then you just want to simplify this. So 12 divided by 4 would be 3. So that's what's going to go in the middle of your table, and that's your axis of symmetry. But that's how you're going to get your first x value. And it's similar to how we did it before, but to get your other x values, you're going to subtract 1, and you're going to add 1. Let me try and write that a little bit better. So 3 minus 1 would be 2. 3 plus 1 would be 4. So that's how you get your x values. To get your y values, we're going to plug these in to our equation. And you really just got to plug it into this right side of your equation. So my advice is use, once again, just like in the lab, if you did do the other teacher pay teachers, you're going to want to go to desmos.com/calculator. And then you're going to plug those into that formula. So you would have 2x squared. So 2, like I'm going to do the vertex first. So 2 parentheses 3 squared minus 12x. So minus 12 parentheses 3, and then plus 15. But if it might be helpful to have a scrap piece of paper so you can write this down so you don't have to keep going back and forth. But I basically rewrote this formula, but I replaced the x with a 3. I'm doing my vertex first. So and if you look, I got negative 3. So that's my y value. Now we want to plug in these other x values. The nice thing about Desmos is I can just edit it. Like I can change those 3s and make sure you change both of them to 2s. And I get negative 1. And I could change them to 4s. And you're going to see you also get negative 1. Just like the last section, you are going to see these y values will be the same, like for your top and bottom row. Our vertex, remember, is that middle row. And then we just want to graph this. So I'm just going to plot them in order. So 2, negative 1 over 2, down 1. 3 over 3, down 3. Wait. And then over 4, down 1. And then if you can draw in your parabola, I know it might be hard. If you can't draw it because your trackpad, you can just plot your points. It's not that big of a deal. But this would be our answer. So I'm going to just do another example. But right now, let me know if does anyone have any questions in the chat? Look at one more example. So first off, your a, b, and c, just write your coefficients. So that's negative x squared. That's really like a -1 if there's no number. That's like, oh, remember there's like really a 1 there. Our b would be +4. Our c would be +1. So like I said, the first thing we want to do is find our axis of symmetry. And the formula is -b over 2 times a. So based on what we have over here, it would be -4 over 2 times our a is -1. So we just kind of want to clean this up. So the top, remember, it just switches your sign. So that +4 would turn into a -4. And then the bottom, 2 times -1 would be -2. So you would get +2. Sorry, kind of got cut off. All right, so the axis of symmetry is 2. Remember, sorry, I didn't write it here. Remember, your middle row is always your vertex. So the axis of symmetry is going to go here. And then to get your other x values, remember, you're going to subtract 1 from whatever you have here, and you're going to add 1. Basically, you're going 1 to the left of this x value, 1 to the right. So this would be 1, this would be 3. And then we need to fill out our table using Desmos. So we're going to plug it into this equation here. So negative parentheses x plus 4 parentheses x. So if I plug that in, it's going to be negative. I'm going to always just usually plug in the vertex. So negative x squared plus 4 x, so plus 4 parentheses 2, and then plus that 1. So this would be my vertex. So that's 5. And then I'm just going to edit it to plug in one of these other x values. I mean, you could do both, but remember, you're going to get the same answer. So if I change both of those 2's into 1's, I would get 4. And if you don't believe me, like this answer is going to be 4, but if you don't believe me, I mean, you can plug it in. You'll see you get the same thing. But it might be worth doing that just to make sure your x values are wrong. If you got 2 different answers here and here, you might have messed up your x value. So, so that middle row is our vertex. And then you're just going to plot these points. So this first point, you would go over 1, up 4. Oops, let me make this bigger. So about there. 2, 5, over 2, up 5. And then 3, 4 would be here. And then if you want to try and draw it, I would definitely put it on thin when you're trying to draw on your graph, but it would be a parabola that opens down. One tip, if you have a negative for your a, if your a is negative, here, let me just try and type. I'll put it down here. If a is negative, or if your a is negative, just a heads up, your graph is going to reflect. It's going to look like this. Go outside the text box. So if your a is negative, your graph's going to look like that. If a is positive, your graph's going to open up. So just kind of one tip that might kind of help to kind of see if your graph's going to open down or not. But that's the idea for today. So there's a couple problems for you to try on that teacher pay teacher assignment. So